Hello, my name is Jacob and you are watching the Prepper's Bunker Outdoors. Recently, I had a family trip to Disneyland. It was an absolutely amazing experience. I'm so thankful to have been able to have it, and I really enjoyed myself. However, I saw a heavy focus on safety at Disneyland, and so it started to make me look around. The reason being my specific background. I was an infantryman in the military in the 173rd Airborne, but I also worked in COIST. Basically, I worked with the military intelligence, and some of the training that I did in that job had me looking at security and potential security breaches a lot. And when I got out of the military, I got a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a focus on homeland security, which again had me doing a lot of research and spending a lot of time looking specifically at security from a domestic terrorist viewpoint. And I noticed some things that were very concerning to me, and I felt for anyone hoping to go to Disneyland, these might be some things that we should talk about because I don't think that many people are. So the first thing that we need to talk about is gates, the security gates, the points of entry and exit. Some were more secure than others. The most secure gates that I found were gates to the restaurants. I don't remember what the little Disney restaurant area that we went into was called, but I guess I didn't realize where I was, being that I had my normal weapons on my person. So as we were being herded towards metal detectors, me at first not realizing what was going on, a ways off I saw the metal detectors and realized that I either had to go back to the car or come up with a very quick solution for the items that I was carrying. I decided, not wanting to burden my family, that I would find a quick solution and hide these items on my body. It's a very easy thing to do if you know how to do it. However, even knowing that myself, I became nervous as I saw the amount of police presence. No issues whatsoever. I got through all of the security, went and enjoyed my evening, and it was not difficult to do. And this was at the most tightly controlled gate that I experienced in all of Disney World. This is Disney World, Florida, so I also went to a bunch of places for like a week. I think I went to all the parks, honestly. So this was the only entrance with actual armed security. However, at other entry points, I believe like Epcot specifically, you did have large buildings that were unmarked with mirrored or blacked out glass. And being that security about half of security is bluffing, there could potentially be armed security in there. However, having armed security standing at the ready 24/7 at Disney is fairly unlikely. So, are the gates secure? Secure enough to disarm the willing and average citizen. Now, that's not to mention backpacks. You need to understand the difficulty of creating a secure area with the sheer number of non-violent and non-aggressive customers that Disney has. We carried a backpack with remote control cars in it for when we got bored or sitting around, for when my wife was nursing or whatever else. Not quite like this. The ones that we carried were considerably larger, but there were multiple times where we could have gotten anything through the gate in those bags. And there were a few times where the bags were checked quite thoroughly. Again, about half the time, security is a bluff and it's a numbers game. So could we have taken in enough harmful devices to cause mass casualties? Not easily, and not quietly. So take that for what it is. So with that being said, at Disneyland, are you safe from other visitors? If your concept of being safe from other visitors is knowing that other visitors do not carry firearms or weapons, probably is, I think, as good of an answer as you're going to get. If a person wants to take small firearms or knives or other weapons into Disneyland, I absolutely know that it can be done because I did it. However, in general, the environment in Disneyland is quite friendly. I doubt that they often have violent meetings between the people that go there. So if your main concern is your fellow man, I would say that there's not much of a concern. However, being that firearms and weapons are equalizers, if you do find yourself in a self-defense situation in Disneyland, as unlikely as that is, you will be in the most unequal possible self-defense situation, because there is nothing that is a wider playing field than fists and personal attacks. Strength, speed, and skill are a massive margin when it comes to self-defense, and only using your hands. Probably the least safe that you could possibly be in almost any altercation would be in a hand-to-hand fight. So that is something to consider. On the contrary, on the other hand, an armed society is a polite society. A firearm is the great equalizer, and for the most part, for a normal person, any person can be incredibly proficient with a firearm, and therefore, if you find yourself in an altercation, firearm to firearm, there is no better way to equal the playing field. So safety for a regular person, pretty much the same as anywhere else you're going to go. Now for the actual potentially important part of this video, and that is safety from any kind of terroristic or just straight up crazy attack. Since Joe Biden legally made gun-free zones in the 90s, statistically we have found that gun-free zones are absolute hotbeds for shootings and violence. What does Disney have in place to deter this? Well, you saw a few police officers earlier. However, we talked about main gate security, which is probably about as good as it's going to get without being very intrusive to the average person. A more important concern is non-main gate security. What security measures are in place besides the gates for someone who wants to climb a fence and enter the facility? Now, what this means is that while it would be probably pretty difficult to potentially difficult to quietly move enough firepower through a main gate to cause mass casualties. If you have some bolt cutters and a couple buddies, if that's possible, the potential for chaos is incalculably higher. And there were multiple points throughout every section of Disneyland that I went to that could incredibly easily be mapped and breached without drawing any attention whatsoever. And if a person were to place Disney as a target for whatever reason, terrorist activity, there is absolutely nothing at Disneyland to stop it. Not before insane amounts of violence could be very easily accomplished, especially in the busy season at Disneyland. Places where there's really nothing but a fence and a couple strands of barbed wire to keep people out. It would take very little planning to bring Disneyland to its knees and everyone in Disneyland, especially if the person doing that was not worried about exfil, was not worried about living. If they were okay, if they were going to go in there and they were going to die in the process, there's absolutely nothing that would almost even hinder it. And I would go so far to say as there's so little armed security and actual security at Disneyland that an exfil could be very easily possible as well for people who did want to exfil. And I don't think that that's something that the Orlando law enforcement could handle at all. There's just too much land, too much separation, and it would be too easy to get in and to get out without anybody knowing what the terrorists were driving or where they were going. To summarize, in a regular world on a regular day, is Disney safe? Statistically, I would say probably yes, because most of the people who go there are going there to have a good time with their families, and they're not getting trashed while they're there. So the chances on a regular day of you having a physical altercation, especially one that led to injury or death, I would say statistically are incredibly low. What are the chances of Disney becoming a target for a terroristic type attack? Incredibly high. Think of the payoff in the news, think of the terror, think of the effect that such an attack would have on the American population, and think of the absolute chaos that could easily be could happen. All it would, Google Maps, you could look at Google Maps and find weak points, and literally all you would need would be some simple bolt cutters. You would need nothing. You could get in there and snip some barbed wire climbing a small fence with a backpack with a multi-tool. There is absolutely no actual security at Disneyland. This video is being filmed in 2021, right after the interesting year that we had in 2020. The world's becoming a very interesting place. If you are thinking about arming yourself and the safety of your family, would I suggest going to Disneyland? Absolutely 100% not. I would not recommend it. I believe that the chances due to population density and potential news coverage and absolute lack of security, I think that the chances of some type of terroristic activity occurring in Disneyland, specifically Disney World in Orlando, Florida, but I'm sure the others are the same, are probably higher than any other point in America. If you want to keep your family healthy and safe, at least for the foreseeable future, down the road that we're going, my brief report would be that Disneyland is not a place at all that should be on your list. No, I wouldn't even consider it. So take this for what it is. I hope nothing ever happens at Disneyland, but I would say optimism is, at this point in time, not a good security plan. Thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video useful. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Potentially share this video. There's some things that you may need to think about. Your friend and your friends or your family may also need to think about. And if you want to go on a premium family adventure safely, I would say that there are some much better options. And also remember, you may have to take my word for this if you are watching this without the initiation of experience. The more safe a place feels and looks, the more you can see safety precautions being taken, the more likely it is that that place is a target and all of the safety precautions that you are seeing are trash. Just for show, just to make you feel safe, to get your money. That's it. That's all I got. I hope that you have a blessed day, and